What's up, everybody, and welcome to SkillDiff, where we have not only differing skill sets, but vastly differing opinions. I'm your host, Dylan Sinnott, beside of my awesome guest,
Patrick Holifield.
The man, the myth, the legend, some would say. Over the weekend, we were greeted to some really good games in Valorant, but a big shape, like completely different than what we would expected, shake up inside of the Alpha division. It looks like at the beginning of this, we have Crew, which is going to be 2-0. We have a whole bunch of teams in the middle, most notably Sentinels, who's at the bottom of that due to round differential, and then we've got Loud 0-2. So we got some exciting ones at the top, exciting ones at the bottom. We're going to start by hopping into the top two teams right now, which are going to be Crew and 2G. What do you think?
Well, I'll start off here with Crew. And Crew, for me, has always been a team that I never have really liked, so to say. If we want to get some biases out of the way, they kind of knocked out 100 Thieves last year with their chance of getting into Worlds. And that's no fault of Crew. I mean, that's the fault of 100 Thieves for not playing well.
Sure.
But that's what Crew has always been. They've been like this wild card within the NA America's scene. And so they'll come in and they'll do bad most of the time, but then they'll come in and they'll just knock a team out just randomly, or they'll pop off. But this season looks like it might be a little bit different. They're starting off very strong with a 2-0 record, which typically does not happen. And they took down Sentinels this last week, which was the main one. 2-0'd them, didn't even go to a map 3. Kesnet popping off, going plus 14. Kesnet went plus 15. Mazzino went plus 14 in this 2-game series. Completely dominant. Sentinels, who were just off of the previous week looking strong, beating 100 Thieves in a dominant fashion on that split, specifically in Game 3, hoping they were coming back off of that Bangkok where they did a little bit bad. But then you're going to drop a game to Crew, 2-0 right off of that.
Yep.
And then that makes that 2-1 against 100 Thieves really not look that impressive. So it's really like Crew actually might be a top contender this year. I don't know if they're just changing up their strats a little bit more, or it's most likely dealing with this meta, because there's been a big meta shift with the introduction of Tejo. And, of course, we got the other new champion, Waylay, who's going to add a little bit more into. So this might be Crew's year to actually do something different, and I think it has a lot to do with the meta.
Totally. And I want to take the other side as well, because, I think that, when you look at this 2G squad, they feel scrappy. They feel fun. They're, really exciting to watch. PSX had a crazy clutch super late in the game to kind of keep it super close. And then Go Barrow is just he's just playing out of his mind. 1v3s, clutching up when needed to. Also a lot of weird, cheeky plays that were really, really fun to watch. But, that team, it just feels scrappy. It feels good. They feel different. They got a lot of really good vibes. And at the end of the day, this is a team that's enjoyable to watch. This is a team that, we talked about them last week or 2 weeks ago a little bit in the sense of hey, this is a team we might want to watch for. Oh, they kind of looked a little bit flat. But, now when you're looking back at it, you change 1 or 2 pistol rounds, this is a completely different team. They might be top of the bracket, and they look really good. And they don't look like they're in their final form either. They still look like they're figuring each other out. They still got that kind of scrappy, trying to get the job done, but maybe not the cleanest, maybe not the best executes, but also not the highest raw gun skill, but they just always hang around. They're just always in rounds that they shouldn't be in. You can never really count them out. It's been really, really fun to watch that team.
It has been a very good team. I'm excited because we talked a little bit on last week, and the Zap guy was really entertaining to watch. He was very eccentric. But now that we covered the top teams, I guess we should talk about, unfortunately, the bottom teams that haven't been performing, which have been Loud, who, of course, you said is 0-2, and Sentinels, who is 1-1.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to think about when you look at that Sentinels roster, because right now, if we were to go to the playoffs, they wouldn't be going. They wouldn't even be getting the chance to go to the next Masters if the season ended today. That's crazy. I want to quickly hop into, you know how many clutches Sentinels had in their series over the weekend?
I'm going to go with 2.
0. Literally none. That's insane. They only won the very first pistol. That's all they ended up managing. And then, just across the board, every stat you have is categorically bad. When you look at all of their rounds across the table, this is a team we expect to be competing for Masters championships. And frankly, they're a few rounds away from being 0-2 at this current point. They are 1-1, so you still got time to go. You still got, I believe, 4 matches left in this regular season. But when you look at the map as it is coming into it, sure, you're going to have to win 2v1s at some point, maybe even 3v1s, and you need those kind of heroic plays at times. But when John Q is your second lowest ADR on the team, it's not good. He looked like a shell of himself. And that's kind of your shot caller, and that's the guy you really want to be leading the charge, and you want him to be like the voice and the vibes. But at the end of the day, it's like they look like they're just shells of themselves hitting sights. They look like they're half balled in at times, like they're just not committed. They're getting collapsed on. They're not winning those scrappy pistols. And like, I'm not saying it's full bore, like, hey, midseason, we need to be changing this roster, like rip it apart kind of thing. But this isn't the team we saw at Masters. This isn't the team we saw qualify for Masters. And at the current rate, this is not going to be the team we're going to see even trying to qualify for the next one to get to Toronto. I mean, they frankly just don't look good, in my opinion. Hope they improve, but like, I definitely think like this is we should pump the brakes, talk with the coach. We need to figure some stuff out because, you lose again next week. You're 1-2. That means you got to pretty much win 2 of the last 3. Those games aren't going to be easy. I don't know. I'd be worried if I were them.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate for Sentinels because they seem to always be a top caliber team, but then always fall short somehow, which brings us to Loud, the other team, which is 0-2, which if we go back a couple years, Loud was one of the top teams in VCT. When they had Aspas on their team as their duelist, they were dominating performance. But it seems like ever since then, and he's moved on to other teams, it's been a slow downward decline for Loud, which has been Brazil's like,
the face.
Their promised child. The Brazilian fans are always very loud, very hyper, so they always want to get behind the team, and that was Loud. And unfortunately, they're just not able to do anything anymore. Their new duelist, who actually is pretty clean and does pretty well, it's just they can't seem to get their strats together. It doesn't look like they're really working together as a team. They're dropping massive negative bombs. Like it's like that thing where you have players on your team that can perform, but it's like you're not getting this new meta down to executes. Like you're just not able to breach on the site, and you're not able to hold the site, which is going to lead you in that 0-2 record, which is going to make Crew look a lot better than you.
Totally.
Even 2G, the new team, like the fact that this is an established team that's fallen beneath a new team that just come in the league, it really goes to say, like, how bad are they doing, or is this other team, 2G, really just that good of a new team?
100%. I mean, I totally agree with everything you had to say there, and like it's interesting to me how, not just that the meta shifts, but how quickly the team shift, even though they're the same players, same organization in Loud's case. But same thing, different result on the other side. When we look at the Omega bracket, which, we kind of thought was going to be G2's bracket to run away with. It's going to be, their world. We just happen to be living in it. But Cloud9, where did this come from?
This is an interesting one, too, because it's funny because I've always wanted to like Cloud9 in Valorant. They've always usually had a good roster. Oxy and Expeke, I'm going to say his name wrong.
Yep.
2 dominant performances from them. Usually always play really well. They've been with the team for a while, but Cloud9 always goes through a bunch of these roster shifts. It's like they're always so close, but never quite there, which is funny because they faced Lev. And the person on Lev that they just picked up, Rossi, used to be on Cloud9. He was on Cloud9 previous year, and he was only on their team for 2 whole months because Cloud9 just loves to shift rosters.
Sure.
So it's funny watching him come in on a different team to face Cloud9, who's coming in hot, but then just underperforms. I think Cloud9 right now is like a really dominant performance. They actually got a team. Mitch is doing really well. They got the old veterans and the new dogs combining together to make a good team. And we've seen them go against Lev. Lev's doing pretty bad. Not really the best, I guess, performance to say they've been doing well. But their game against NRG, who is a solid squad, who's had a little bit of turmoil, great performance by them, 2-1 victory. I think Cloud9 definitely has the potential to be second best in this Omega group. Obviously, G2 is going to be the top dog.
I mean, the crazy thing to me is not just second best in this Omega group, but when you look at the current power rankings on VLR, C9 is number 2 in North America. Like, that's crazy to think that if we would have talked about this 60 days ago, they're probably not top 5, top 8. And now we got them in second. Like, that's insane. They just took down the NRG, like you said. When you look at that Omega bracket, in the nicest way, they're not going to really be fighting any competition for 4 more weeks. They played G2 the final week of this VCT season, if you want to call it that. They'll play G2 in the final one. And at that point, they both could be reasonably undefeated teams going in to determine who is the base representative of America. And, like, that's crazy when you think about teams like Sentinels. That's crazy when you think about teams like Loud, who isn't looking loud at all right now. I do think we're going to have Crew and some others on the other side of the bracket. But as far as American teams right now, I mean, it feels like a 2-horse race. And, the way their seasons are kind of lined up right now with G2, it's like, they're reasonably both going to be undefeated at that point. And I don't think that's going to show the real strength of either of those teams, to be completely fair, because I do think everybody else in their pool is, a little bit on the easier side, if you will. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes, but I do agree. I think it's Zeppa. It looks insanely good on that team. Like it makes it fun to watch. Really, really exciting. And yeah, that's all I got. I mean, it's been fun to watch for the weekend. All the matches were close and exciting to see North America look good, but I don't know. Brazil's also a little scrappy.
I mean, we can call that one close against Leb, but I'm pretty sure they like 13-2'd them on Ascent.
Yeah. I'm on the other side. 2G, they were looking close.
Yeah, that's looking clean.
The alpha side.
Okay, well, moving on to everybody's favorite console competitive shooter, CDL. Things have really been going astray over there.
100%.
The mid-season madness, Roster Mania, as people are calling it, Los Angeles Gentlemates, Minnesota the Roker, Optic Texas, Miami Heretics, and the Vegas Falcons all making roster changes here in the mid-season. I mean, is this too little too late?
I mean, you got to think about it. We're looking at probably about 6 of the teams might be, maximizing to change rosters in some capacity. That's really crazy. You think about the fact that the Surge is one of the best teams right now. They did make a earlier in the year roster move. And I mean, it's crazy. When you look at the points of it currently, the Falcons obviously have 0. We've got the Lagmates are at 30, Minnesota 90, Cloud9 95, Miami 100, and then Boston and Optic Gaming at 110. Now that is 6 through 12 or 7 through 12. It's the final 2 slots to get into the championship to qualify for COD Champs this year. You're gonna have to be in that top 8. So they're all fighting for 2 different seats, kind of in that pool. So is it too little, too late? I mean, technically the Falcons, if in the scenario they finish T4 for the rest of the year, they're in pretty safe, not really contested. Outside of T4, it gets sketchy. You think about that T4, though, that means you've got to take down one of LA Thieves, FaZe, Ultra, or Surge. You got to take out one of those cats. That's going to be really hard to do for them for the rest of the year. I know that none of the rosters are official as of recording this episode. Rumor is Falcons are probably going to be a Pred-built team. We're going to be seeing some other stuff like Kenny going to Roker, might be playing Optic this Friday. That's going to be a really fun match. But when I look at the points, at how you have to do it, you're going to need about 200 points to get in is my rough guess. Most of their teams are right around 100, so 200 and up will get you in. That's pretty realistic to do for most of these teams. It is fun. COD always does this. Roster Mania is always exciting. It is weirdly dramatic time of the year to be doing it in the middle. I definitely don't think it's too little too late, but a lot of these rosters I'm very excited to see just because, is Kenny going to be the king of unders? I mean, he might be. We're about to see him go to Minnesota. He's not going to have the slaying power around him he had at Optic, but he could light it up. We could see the old Kenny. It's going to be really fun to watch a lot of these rosters. I mean, it's going to be really different this weekend. Can't wait to the end of the week till we know what they all are, but dude, I love it. It's exciting. COD keeps it fresh. The console kings reign supreme, and at least it gives us something to talk about.
I find what's funny to me is I find the Kenny one the most funny because we just constantly talked about Optic and had this whole family atmosphere, and homeboy's out instantly.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, maybe he could have been the problem with Optic, maybe not, maybe they were the problem. So I think him going to Minnesota, he might step his KD up a little bit, but is this really going to make a difference? That's the funny thing about a lot of these roster changes is everybody, like you said, they want to capture, I feel like, that Surge magic. They pick up Neptune, all of a sudden they're a T4 team, out of nowhere. So They're all trying to, scramble around and make that change, and hopefully just one person is going to take their team from bottom tier to top tier. It's usually just not that simple. It's just not going to happen. So for me, it's this is all just too little too late. Let's change things up, see if it'll make a difference, but most likely it's not. All in all, I think it's just bad when we're just slinging players around left and right.
Sure.
Instead of building an actual team. I understand if you're going seasons without anything. Optic was on a 15 loss streak, and that's usually not like them, so it's understandable for them to maybe make a swap. But these other teams, it's you've been losing the whole season. I mean, either you might as well try to grow this team, or you should have just get a whole new one next season.
100%. I mean, there's a lot of weird rumors as to what's going to be happening next year, and it's also worth noting that it's going to be fun storylines. Anything with Optic always sells, and when we look at who they got to play in this upcoming split, they're going to be playing Kenny on Roker. They're going to be playing Pred on Falcons. We're going to get to see them versus the new Heretic squad. We're going to get to see them versus the FaZe. There's a realistic chance they might not win this entire split. There's also a chance that they could surprise all of us and win out the whole split. So, I mean, that's going to be really exciting. But the next topic we kind of want to get into is directly related to this. You had mentioned it's going to be really hard for one player to make such a difference. But I think we got to see that with the Seattle Surge, or Vancouver Surge, rather. When Neptune kind of comes in, he's out fragging probably 90+% of the league, and that's a kid who was in Challengers. And that's the topic that we kind of want to go over is there's been so much animosity over some clips going viral from Envoy and others. The whole community has kind of pitched in and chipped in on this segment. So we really want to kind of dive into it as what does the breakdown of this look like? I mean, when we look at the current model of challengers in Call of Duty, it's not always at every major event. It is at a lot of them, but it's not at all of them. What does it mean to be a challengers player and get promoted into the big leagues, so to speak? Should we be expanding teams in the league to make it more competitive? Because you could argue if we add maybe 4 more teams into the league, then sure, the bottom 8 to the bottom 10 might be fighting it out at the bottom. Those players get more reps, more time, more games. Because there was a graphic as well that got posted that, one of the seasons back in the MLG days, they would play 30, 40 matches, whereas we're getting 6 matches a split. So you're not getting as many reps. So more teams arguably could lead to more reps. So the whole situation is very large. The scale is very complex. But when you think about the challenger scene as it relates to Call of Duty, it's at times you get moments like Neptune. At times you get this challengers kid that comes out of nowhere and dominates the league. But it feels so few and far between. Like, are we just in an era of old guard talent is just better? The old talent is simply just better. Like, when you think about this from a challenger perspective, like, how do you unpack this challengers problem? And, how do you break it down?
I mean, I think this is an issue that's plagued esports for a long time, and there really seems to be no fix. The problem is I don't really think there's like some sort of talent issue where it's like the challenger or collegiate talent is like so less than what's in the pro scene. I think a lot of it has to do with franchising for one, and just like I think Envoy even said it. More teams have more money. They have the best players, which kind of just leaves out the rest of the teams where they just have the bottom of the barrel, so to say. But also there's no formula. You look at regular sports, it's like you go through a formula. You play in high school, you get scouted, you go to college, you do good in college, you get drafted into whatever sport it is, NFL, baseball, whatever. And here we don't have that structure, and we kind of just laugh at the lower structures. It's like we look at collegiate, we look at challenger, and we're like, well, look how bad they are. Look at this. It's like there's usually no praise. And the same goes for the players, right? There's always that drama of, I think it was a while back with the CDL, just they constantly want to drop each other. Sure. Nobody sticks as a team for more than 2 weeks. You lose one game, drop this guy, he did bad. It's kind of just like a jumbled mess right now. And the thing is I would love to have that structure like in sports where a kid could start from high school, go up and actually become a professional player through this pipeline. But unfortunately, we don't have that. And the way that the games are controlled by the companies, they normally don't allow for that. And it's just, there's too many rules and regulations that deal with gaming to not allow that. And it's unfortunate.
It's also really tough too, because when you look at like your comparison earlier to regular sports, if you will, you have a variety of sports. Like, there are people who would watch college football that would never watch the NFL. There are people who love March Madness and college basketball and don't love the NBA. There's not any esport today where it's like, I love the high school version of this. I love the college version of this, but not the pro version. Now, you could say that there's one-off tournaments and other things like that they're helpful, but to your point, the pipeline is and always has been the biggest struggle. And, a lot of the complaints that you had just mentioned, things that I lived and then we even lived when we played Call of Duty is like, it's really hard to maintain a team. It's really hard to stay together. And, and talking to a lot of these people, and, this is a community that I've been heavily involved in for a long time. So it's, when you look at organizations like Omit and War and Lore and like a lot of these really good organizations, like they offer a lot to the player, but it's how do you maintain that player and how do you build them into a place where you can get, kind of promoted to the next step and it makes sense. Because I agree, I don't think that it's a deficiency in talent. I don't think that, we're of the same age of the Scumps and the Claysters and the Crim Six and all of those guys. And it's like, I don't think that our age group was just better. We were in it. So, I mean, we were good. But kids today are also incredibly talented, incredibly good. It's just like that pipeline. We grew up with the game, so we stayed on the game. And it's like we never let the new kids in. So I do think there's got to be some room of improvement for that. I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of going to like a relegation-style system to where, back in the old day, MLG had a lot right in the sense of top 12 teams auto went in, bottom top 4 teams from challengers get kicked up, go to groups, play each other. You get a lot of cross-pollination because those top 4 teams from the open bracket, they could do a lot of damage to your mid-tier teams. Sure, you're never going to lose to the biggest teams. You would not lose. Like, Atlanta FaZe is not dropping any game, probably ever, to any challengers team. But the Falcons, the Gentlemates, maybe even a bad form Optic, like those guys could drop to Lore. They could drop to Omit Brooklyn. Like, you could see those things happen. And Then you get those players get more reps with the pros. You could see a kid like Fame pop off versus a pro team, and then cool, now he's got a pro contract. And I think a lot of those things could make sense, but you just need more of those opportunities, which is why it is a little bit disheartening at times when you have so many majors that don't have challengers events, and there's such a little bit of intrigue and influence from the publisher to kind of help maintain your esports growing. Like, there's no logical ladder inside the game, and like, we talked about over the weekend in Counter-Strike, you can go in and see the majors and see what happened in the thing. Like, you can see it in real time. It feels real. Climbing Premier feels real. It feels impactful. There's nothing like that in Call of Duty, and that's really unfortunate. I think that's part of the reason it's really hard to grow in the challenger scene. And then, frankly, at the end of the day, MLG is dead, gone, and doesn't exist anymore. So we can't do game battles. We can't do ladders. You don't get those cool 2K tournaments anymore. So if you're not invited to the Pro Money 8s, it's real hard to make it to the pro scene right now.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate that you just got to know who you know if you want to be able to make it, or just be a talented streamer. Anywho, moving on to everybody's favorite FPS, especially this man's over here, Counter-Strike.
For sure.
The Blast Open, or Premier Spring Open in Lisbon just finished, and we had another Vitality versus Mouz, but this time it was closer.
It was.
But Vitality once again closed it out in the end on Train. So Vitality, are they beatable? They didn't look as good this time.
I mean, they feel very mortal. And I do think it's crazy to think, as soon as we started a lot of the content here on GGN, one of the first topics we noted was ropes getting picked up from FaZe Clan. In hindsight, that's one of the most influential things of this year, because he has came up time and time again whenever they needed him in the clutch moments. Right now, it's insane how good they look at times. However, they showed a lot of weakness this event. I don't think their map pool is that deep. I don't think they are as well-rounded as we anticipated. I think the moment we got to see Mouz take one map from him and we went to those two kind of extra maps, quote unquote, it really started to show that, you could argue on Train, both Mouz and Vitality looked a little bit confused and lost and didn't know really strats. That was the fourth time that map was played the entire event, which is kind of nuts to think. But that is a very rare map. You don't see it too frequently. But I do think if you're a Team Spirit or otherwise, like, you're looking at this like, oh, like, they're beatable. This is, we understand the formula now. Like, we know how this is going to work. I think at the end of the day, though, this comes down to Apex is just simply better than Brolin. IGLs are very important in this game. Apex was able to go net positive through the series, and he was much more influential than Brolin was. But, I mean, dude, when the thing started off, I think everybody forgets, it was 13-0 on the first one. We saw a bagel in a grand final. Like, that is crazy. And then to think, we almost went to overtime in Game 5. We got an overtime in the series. We went to the fifth game in a best-of-5 series. Like, it's crazy to think how close and not close that was at times. So it's like, I feel wishy-washy talking about it, because on one part of me is like, yo, they 13-0'd them. This is insane. And then the other part of me is like, well, they did go to Game 5. And realistically, you drop a pistol's the difference in you winning or losing this open, which they aren't dropping them. Props to Apex. ZywOo is ZywOo. Those things still exist, but I don't know. I think they're mortal. I'm very confident that they will not break, which I think we had no doubt. They will not break Nip's record.
Of course not.
I'm curious if they will break Liquid's record from 2019. I think it's improbable, though. I think they're taking a month off. We're going to see them in Australia. I think they lose in Australia.
Vitality, I mean, any team in Counter-Strike is beatable, okay? Like, nobody is untouchable in this one. But the thing is like the reason they're taking this month off is because they've been playing so much. This is Vitality on the back end of their game and stretch. They've been going from tournament to tournament. They just did the PGL, now they're doing the Blast Open. And, like, sure, they did 13-0 first map. Made everybody think, here we go again. 3-0, Vitality, Mouz going home again. But then, yeah, Mouz is out. But it's still close. 13-11, both the times that Mouz won, it was 13-11. Okay? Which means Vitality's right there. Mouz was never dominating Vitality at any point. It was just a matter of, like, they got the slight edge on them on these maps. And Train, nobody really plays Train, so, yeah, it's a little bit scrappy. And that's when we really get to see more of, like, just the crazy, I'm going to run through the smoke and spray control down two people. We're just holding weird angles. We're popping out. ZywOo, in that series, incredible. That man, always goes positive. He is single-handedly, I understand why he passed the MVPs for Simple now. Like, this man does not miss. If he's having an off day, maybe Vitality can lose. But then what you said about Ropes and Flames, they both had fantastic series this time. And unfortunately, Brolin and Exertion from Mouz just unfortunately did not bring the game. Yeah, they went major negatives, unfortunately, and weren't able to do anything. But they still win it to 5.
Sure.
And to me, Vitality, I think they will break Liquid's record. I think they are really strong because they have that fundamental core of, as a team, everybody on that team can perform. And when you have the superstar like Zawu and Apex leading it all, you're going to have an unbeatable squad.
It's interesting because when you think about that, in that record shrine of most consecutive wins, Astralis has owned there multiple times. They just had a random drop here and there. But they passed around that MVP because their team was star-studded back then. The other thing I kind of want to note is, I mean, I know the light is always being shined on Vitality, and I hate to always bring it back to Spirit, which we're going to get into the next topic, but realistically, I think if they choose different maps, I think Spirit beat Vitality. We're not even talking about this. Like, the fact that they didn't auto-lock Dust 2 is crazy to me. I think that they were a little bit scared to do that. But the map pick, I mean, Mouz has barely been changing the map pick versus Vitality, and it's like, you got to try something versus these kids, especially now that you see their map pool might be a little bit weaker. I'm curious to see what we're going to see moving forward because I think teams are going to start throwing weird maps at them, and we'll see what happens. But it should be exciting. The next thing we want to hop into though is officially is Mouz now the second best team? Are they greater than Spirit? Have they usurped them for that second place, or do you still think because Spirit's now going to lose their #1 world ranking after this event? So where do we think that they are in the pecking order?
I will honestly put them up there. I accidentally said PGL earlier. I meant ESL when I was talking about it earlier, which Mouz did win the PGL one, which Vitality or Spirit was not there. But yeah, Mouz have been going on an incredible record here, coming in first for PGL, second ESL, second in Blast Open, beating Spirit in both of those.
Yep.
So I would definitely put them there. The problem with Spirit is the problem I've been preaching on this show 100 times is that, yes, you have Donk. Donk is an incredible player, always going positive, but and you have Sharo, and that's it. The rest of the team, Magic's, unfortunately, he has not been performing. I don't think he had one game, I think, where he went even. Other than that, he has not been doing good at all. Chopper the same way. Like Chopper might pop off on some pistol rounds. That seems to be his strongest suit.
Yeah.
But then after that, when he picks up a rifle, he kind of falls down.
Sure.
The same with Zontix. I think their team, it's too reliant on those two players. As to where you have like Apex and Zawu for Vitality, right? It's like Ropes and Flames and Mezzi, they all can just step up 100%. And dominate. As to where you don't really see that with Spirit. And so Mouz with Exertion and Brolin and Torzi, all of them can pop off at any moment. Now, unfortunately, 100%. They have bad games like they did against Vitality where those two didn't perform. But anybody on that team can have its moment and they play better as a team, as where Spirit is like, yeah, Donk's going to get us these entry kills. Shower is going to follow up. And then I guess us other three, we're just going to go die in the corner somewhere. That's what it seems to constantly be. And there was a lot of hype about Spirit. Coming into this, it was like, yeah, Spirit, this team, they're like dynasty. Winning. Yeah, they're dominating everything. And it's like, okay, they're coming in like third place now every time. Sure. So maybe they're just a consistent third place contender. I think they need to make a couple little changes on how they approach the game, and they should be fine. But Mouz #2.
Totally. I mean, we saw for a year stretch where they didn't finish in a grand finals twice, and we've seen that in the last 3 events right now, which is crazy. To capitalize on what you're talking about, when we look at Torzi versus Shiru, because those are kind of the best 2 comparisons, in their series, it's Shiru's +9, Torzi's +13. When you look at Brolin versus Chopper, Brolin was +1, Chopper's -18. That's the really hard one. When you look at the Ancient map where we had a quadruple OT versus them earlier in that series, Magic is -20. Chopper is -15. You were down 35 kills from 2 of your players in a match that went to quadruple overtime. Like, that is completely unacceptable, completely unprecedented. Because on this side, you have your Xertion, and then you had Torzi, who are +14 each. So you're up 28 on these 2 guys. You're dropped 35 on the other 2. There's no way Donk and Shiru can carry that. So to me, it's, when I look at this roster moving forward, I think last year they were able to kind of capitalize on the fact that Donk could just W key at kids. He's so good. He can entry frag so well. if he gets 2 or 3, the other guys can win a 4v2. I don't know if they can win a 4v3, and they definitely can't win a 4v4, and they're absolutely not winning a 4v5. So I think, when you're looking at Magic right now, it feels like you're kind of on the heels of needing to make a move. I think we see how the next 60 days goes, but 60 days from now, if they don't have a chip, I can't imagine Magic still on that team. And I mean, it is what it is. You got to make moves to win if you want to win.
I think that's what it is. Teams just simply figured out that if we can just control Donk, we control Spirit. And so it's as simple as that. But speaking of moving forward for 60 days, we've been watching Counter-Strike for 2 months, and the players have been playing in nonstop tournaments. I mean, we've talked a little bit about this before, but like, is it too much going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think fatigue's a real thing. I mean, when you look at it right now, Vitality, they're basically taking a month off. They're not going to be returning until we get to IEM Australia. So you see it a lot. Counter-Strike's a little bit of a different esport. This is something that, the show is net new, so we're kind of talking about it for the first time, but this will be a recursive issue because these players play for what feels like months at a time. Vitality's talking about they've been on the road for 60 straight days, playing in nothing but weekends continuations. So it's not surprising to kind of see this. It's not that odd. Like, to me, the crazy part is we're about to have a tournament coming up in 8 days, which is PGL Bucharest, and it's a $1.25 million tournament. And I don't think anybody in the top 4 are going to be competing in that. I think Eternal Fire is the highest rated team that's showing up there, and I think they're the 5th or 6th rated team right now. And that's crazy to me that you could just, no disrespect to EF or any of those other squads, but you could basically have a mid-pack team walk away with $1.25 million prize. Like, that's crazy to me, but that is the nature of Counter-Strike. Do I think it's too much? Do I think it's too heavy? Not really. I mean, I kind of love it. It feels almost like golf as a regular sport in the sense of like it's kind of always happening. There's kind of always stuff. Sometimes some big guys aren't there, but other times they are. And you just, everybody's going to be at the major. That's the big one where everybody kind of wraps around those epicenter moments. And the big leagues that everybody compete in. So I don't think it's too much. I do think that making the calendar make a little bit more sense in terms of the travel cadence, because at times they're about to go to Australia, then they're coming to America, then they're going back to Europe. Like the movement's a little bit crazy at times, but other than that, I think it's fun. It's all in good entertainment. The broadcast quality is crazy. The prize pool for the players is crazy. I hope we don't get as many Astralises where people kind of get lost in their mentals for, Astralis basically played for 2 straight years. It's good to see teams kind of being like, yo, let's go 2-3 months on, month off, chill, repeat. Hopefully we'll get to see more dynasties in that capacity because Vitality can keep the win streak. They're just not going to keep, winning the X amount of tournaments in a row.
Yeah, for me, I mean, when we talked about it a little bit before, it is like I do think it is a little much. I prefer players to have greater mentals, and usually that means taking some breaks. Now, granted, like I said, these teams can choose to take breaks, not attend the tournament. They mainly just make sure they attend like all the major ones that are important for their seedings and their rankings, and then they kind of skip out on the semi-lower to lower ones, which is cool in its own right because that allows for like teams to be able to do the lower ones, right? Like Eternal Fire or Mongols or Falcons or any of those to walk away with those prize pools without having to deal with the top dogs, which I think is cool. But it's just a lot to take in. It is cool to constantly have Counter-Strike to watch, but at the same time, like you said, traveling from America to China to Europe to wherever else the next place is, that's a lot of mental toll. You traveled a lot, the jet lag, all these things. It's like, I don't want a team to underperform because they've been stressed of having to play for 2 months straight and they've gotten no sleep because they're in different time zones every month. So I prefer the players to know what they, be healthy, be happy, be able to play to their best so we get the best Counter-Strike we have. So I'm more for a little bit less, but at the same time, let these lower teams, the bigger teams take breaks like they are. Lower teams come in and vice versa and switch and play when you want. I think that is a good addition to it. If it wasn't for that, I would be huge negative for this.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's good too because like you kind of want to foster those breaks because like right now, if you're Mouz, if you're Spirit, a month for you to help go train, figure out your weaknesses, what are the gaps you're missing to kind of beat this Vitality squad, it's going to be critical. That's not to say that Vitality is not going to go do the same thing and fix their weaknesses as well. So it will be exciting to move forward. That is it for our core topics today. And now we get to hop into buy, sell. The first thing we're going to talk about today is going to be Halo with the FaZe Kaysen Invitational. We had a peak viewership of about 45,000, which is, I think, the best Halo's done all year. Do we think this is the future? Do we think a invitational 4-team select, just the 4 ones you know, just the 4 ones that can win, just the 4 that you can care about? We think that's a good move for esports moving forward, or we think that, Halo's grassroots is tiny, nobody should care, it's just Halo?
I think it's a little bit, it's definitely a buy for me for sure, but it's more about the structure, about community, right? It's like, I think having the community tournaments hosted by either a member or whatever, putting up the money and inviting these teams to play, I think is cool. And like you said, $45K, I'm pretty sure that beats out most of all of Halo's tournaments they've had, at least with Infinite, which is low-key kind of sad. Halo has fallen pretty far, and it's sad to see. But I like community-driven stuff. I think they should do it. I know Ludwig loves to do things with the community. They could do stuff. Tarek does it with some, with Valorant. It's like, I think stuff like that's cool. Totally should do it.
Yeah, I'm big team buy as well. I mean, I think the part of the production quality is really, really good. I think that's impressive, nice, looks great on camera. The games actually were super good. Shopify Rebellion and Optic are going to give us a great year of competitive Halo. Those 2 teams look very evenly matched. We got a reverse sweep from Optic in the winners final, and then we had Shopify Rebellion winning in Game 7 in the actual grand final. I think it's fun, all in good fun, getting ready for this upcoming event. So why to stay tuned for Halo? Hopefully this helps on the upswing, but I'm buying. I'm in it.
All right, switching gears, as another host would like to say, the League of Legends live action show, TV, whatever you want to call it, looks like it seems to be going through. They're trying to lock down a location. How do we feel about this?
Yeah, so it seems like they're trying to lock down a location in Vietnam right now. It's going to be either about the Bilgewater or the Shadow Isles. I'm pretty sure it's the Last of Us director, which lends some credence to success and a little bit of hype in here. But for me personally, we have yet to see a video game thing do super, super well. I hope that Riot is different. I think that currently WoW is maybe the highest rated than Last of Us. Those 2 are close. At times, there's so many cool IPs out there. I don't think we need to go into League of Legends world. I think Arcane is really cool. I'm going to sell this. Call me the no fun police, but it's one of those of like, just keep backing Arcane. Arcane's cool. We don't need to make real characters.
Yeah, no fun police is true. I would definitely do a buy for this as well, because it's simple as like, yeah, Arcane is great. They're going to keep doing Arcane. I love the animation. I think that's fantastic. But a live action can also be really cool. The Last of Us, really good adaptation. Season 2 is actually about to come out right now, starting next month. I'm excited. So as long as they can recreate that magic there, and League has a lot of those, I don't want it to be like darker storylines, but it has like more of that darker tone, which can, for me personally at least, can make for some really good live action.
Yeah, I hope it is. I just hope it's not more drama and more nonsense, because I do think it could take away from Arcane and other things, which would be obviously unfortunate. Speaking of unfortunate, Grand Theft Auto 6 will give us nothing. We've currently had the CEO of Take-Two come out and kind of talk about it. Talk about their marketing budget and all this other stuff. They don't want to give dates. They don't want to give specifics. They're trying to currently maintain the hype around it. We buying or we selling this?
This one I'm gonna go with a sell. I think I get their strategy of what they're trying to do with keeping everything like discreet, nothing leaks out, so we can build the hype. But the game's gonna have immense hype no matter what. And so there's nothing wrong with giving us a trailer. And they know other game companies structure their releases around theirs, because they don't want to release their game they've been working hard on
within 6 months.
Yes, right next to Grand Theft Auto, because people are going to spend their money on Grand Theft Auto. So it's like they're kind of hurting them a little bit as well. Like, it's no harm, no foul to tell us, hey, this game's scheduled to release in holiday of 2025, 2026, whatever it is. We got a trailer coming that we're expecting to release in a couple months. I think it's a little much of them.
I'm going to buy this just solely on the pretense of this is the MVP sitting on the sidelines. Like, this is Tom Brady, no longer with the Pats. Which team do I want to win a Super Bowl for? Because like you said, no matter what, whenever they release this game, they release it in February, banger. We'll break all February sales records. They release it in April, banger. We'll break all April sales records. No matter what, wherever they do, it's going to do great numbers. But I do think this is going to be a make or break moment for Rockstar in general. And you had said this earlier, but to the gaming industry in general, because this is one of those, it is either going to be the greatest accomplishment in the history of video games. I think they've rumored to have spent $2 billion on this. And if it doesn't work, if they get a Cyberpunk release, it's going to be, oh man, it'll be so bad. But I'm big team, milk the cow while you can milk it, keep running the train, live as long as you can live, riding this wave. I think it's going to be really exciting. Actually, they also said they're going to do a lot more print media too. So I'm excited to see like billboards, train cars, like get back to the old school stuff. Like quit sending me Facebook and Instagram ads. I don't need any more of those.
All right, on to the next topic. Is art dead? I don't know if you've been on the internet recently, but obviously you've been seeing the Studio Ghibli memes, as they call them. Even the White House, as you said, posted its own version.
Yep.
They've been all over everywhere. AI art has been a conversational debate for a minute now. And it's, obviously artists are upset. Some people love it. Is this a buy or sell?
I am really sorry to everyone who is an artist out there. But as a entrepreneur and person who likes to get things done quickly, I'm buying this all day. I do not think that this replaces very high quality artists. I think this does replace the bottom 60% though. Like you no longer need artists or graphic designers, whatever, for rapid prototyping or any kind of sketches or like, if we wanted to come up with branding and concepts for the show, we could rapidly generate that with AI. And then we could pay an artist to take us to that final direction, brand, unify as we want. I think it's interesting to see the world kind of coming to terms with that. It's also really weird that Studio Ghibli art is the thing that we chose to unify the world with AI art. But yes, I'm going to buy it. I think it does nothing but allows creators to be more creative and removes a barrier from a lot of people because graphic design is hard. Coming up with branding and theming is hard and challenging. And helping people get 70 to 80% of the way there, I think is a beautiful thing. I don't think it hurts the market in any capacity. And I think that if you're in the pool of people that would be afflicted by this, I think that the way you don't be afflicted by this is you make your skill set high enough to where you're still in demand, or maybe this wasn't going to be it for you in general.
That's a cop-out if I've ever heard one. Big sale. AI taking over and using art. I mean, it gets its art from actual artists. If it was making this stuff itself, maybe it'd be a different story, but AI art is just stolen art from around the internet. It's nothing new. It is fun to use. You take a picture of yourself and turn yourself into AI art. I think there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. Do that as you will. But like as a company using it for any sort of thing, whether that be for financial gain or for designs for video games, that's been a big thing about people. They're using AI in video games. I think it's just lazy for one. Business saving, you don't want to spend money on graphic design artists, saving time. It has its uses. Don't get me wrong. I've used AI here before for quite a few things. It has its uses, but like art is one of those things where it's like, you want something to be precise and created for what you have. You need an actual artist to be able to do that, not some robot scouring the internet to put together a couple images. Big time sale.
Yeah, it's just one piggyback note thing to sitting out there is like, as people, I've gotten artists to commission things for me before, and getting somebody to get what's in your head out is always a challenge. So like, I feel like I struggle with the same thing with real artists as you're going to struggle with AI. So I think it always depends on your goal and objective, but it's going to be fun world to look into in the next couple of years for sure. The next thing we wanted to tackle is there's a bunch of creators going overseas right now to do cool stuff. We've got Sinnott, who's currently in China going on a really cool tour. Even so much so that the political party in China are basically saying, hey, look at all the cool stuff we have here. And then on the other side, we have Ludwig, who is going to Japan and taking a motorcycle from the most southern point to the most northern point with, I think, no maps, no GPS, none of that stuff, and they don't speak Japanese. And also you have Japan's, I guess, tourism group or whatever, kind of like helping promote this and another, hey, look, cool things. You buying and selling these creators going overseas and doing this stuff, or you think it's just doing it for the bag?
For me, it's buy with a caveat. And the caveat is if they are for somehow getting paid for whatever reason it may be with this. If they're doing it on their own free will, they love to travel and they think it's a cool idea for Ludwig to go from the south to the northernmost point of Japan without any help. If they think that's just good content, I'm on board because I think it's good content. I think it's a fun watch. But it just becomes a problem if they are secretly getting handed money from the side by the government of Japan or China to be like, hey, make our country look good for tourism. It's like, well, we need to be upfront if that's the case. But if they're doing it, iShowSpeed loves to go everywhere. Like, sure, the government may be piggybacking off of them coming there, but like, that's not their fault. I love the content. I think it's great. They should do it more.
Yeah, I'm super on the fence of this because it is like it's a bunch of creators going kind of out of their wheelhouse to do odd things. We also do have a lot of weird kind of post-trauma from, oh my God, Logan Paul doing the whole shenanigans years back. There's also that one creator who I don't even want to mention to give him any credit, but he does cause a lot of chaos overseas. So on one end of the spectrum, you have this, and whenever I travel overseas, I just don't want people to look at Americans like they're stupid. So that's why I always hope that the Americans that travel overseas don't do stupid things. But I don't think either of these creators are necessarily doing that. I don't necessarily love Kai's content. I think it's a little too animated and hypey for me. But to your point, I think if the ethics are behind it are good, I think it's cool. Travel, show cool places. The world's insanely beautiful. As gamers, we should all touch a little bit more grass, and, the world's kind of wild out there. So I'm going to buy it, get outside, see the world, enjoy your life.
All right, and so for our final buy-sell topic, we switch over to League of Legends once again with the Los Ratones League of Legends team. The future, what Cadrill's calling the future for them, basically
world tours.
Yeah, world tours. They're streaming all their scrims. They're basically turning the League of Legends esports scene upside down in a whole new way, and the fans are loving it.
Yeah, they are. They might even take over America.
Or selling. Yeah, possibly.
It's ironic. We go from me telling people to touch grass to the group of people who probably have touched the least grass are the League of Legends players, because that game is so hard. However, I do think Cadrill has done a great job with Los Ratones, building a lot of hype around that. So I'm going to buy this just solely because he's making something that I think is objectively very hard to look very cool. Candidly, I do hope they do not come to America to try to win. I hope they do go on a world tour, because I think seeing like a Harlem Globetrotters-esque kind of show matches, have them go play T1 and Faker and like have cool moments and banter and fun, and like I think seeing that, like, that content could do such positive impacts for League of Legends, but also kind of esports as a whole, because right now there's such like a rift when it comes to Europe versus America versus China. It's like those things feel so different. So to see kind of a neutral party be able to navigate those, I think would be really, really cool. They might just get bodied. Faker might not have fun. He might just be like, nah, I'm going to play Zed. This is fun for me. But I'm going to buy it because I hope that it's exciting. I hope for the world tour. If they go to America and win, I'm going to sell it because, dude, anybody can win here. We might as well make a team.
It's going to be a big buy for me as well, because I'm all about the new age content. I think content is what is going to save esports. A lot of the times, a lot of these organizations and all this very drab. They make boring content. Nobody can get behind it. You have a few that are successful in some ways, like Optic, for instance.
Sure.
So Los Ratones, this is like that same way. You get a following behind you, then it don't matter where you go. Whether you do the world tour, whether you do the NA domination, as long as you have the fans, you're bringing in all of that, whatever it may be, money for the esport or the game or for your organization, whatever it is. For me, content is the king. You make good content, you get the viewers watching. That's how you build the esport, and that's a little bit to do with the co-streaming nonsense. It's all the same. Get the fan bases in. Make the game makes money, the broadcast makes money, everybody's happy, esports can continue to grow.
I thought we weren't allowed to make money. I thought that's how it worked.
Hey, that works too, as long as it keeps going.
We can't be talking about co-streaming, or we will be going for another couple hours. But that wraps up our show today. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any things that we should be buying or selling on next week's episode, feel free to let us know down in the comment section below. But all in all, that's all I got. We'll see you later, right, Pat?
Till next time.
Peace.